Hey, what's up everyone? NoZoupForYou here, and I hope you all are doing copacetic. I hope that everything in your lives is going alright. January is treating you phenomenal because it's treating me pretty well. I'm sitting at home, furloughed, doing stuff around the house that I wouldn't be able to do normally, so everything is good. It's also given me a lot of time to test new ships and play the carrier rework a little more. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the carrier rework, and I think there's some things that I gotta get off my chest regarding the carrier rework. First and foremost, I just want to put it out there that I know Wargaming is trying their hardest with this. I know they are trying to make the carrier rework work. I know that in their hearts they want to do what's right for the community. And I think they've got a good basis for that. I think they're on the right path. I think the carrier rework has very, very good potential. But they've announced that it's coming out in 8.0. And that patch is coming up very, very fast. And that leads me to the main point right here. And I'm just going to come out and say it. This rework is not ready to go live. Not ready in the least. Not even close. Well, it might be close, but it's not close enough to push out on 8.0. It's just not. There are too many issues with the carrier rework right now and carrier gameplay in general. Let's start with the biggest issue as I can see, and that's dealing with the entry-level carriers that you're going to find in this game. The whole object, the whole point of this carrier rework is to get more players playing aircraft carriers. But the giant problem is, your beginning tier of aircraft carriers, your very beginning tier, is an absolute bore to play. It sucks. It is draining because it is just so dull. I don't think either side, IJN or US Navy, starts off with torpedoes, so that means you're stuck with bombs and rockets. And the gameplay is just boring. It is just not fun whatsoever. And this is not good when this is the first taste new players coming in and trying to play aircraft carriers are going to get. It's not good when your first CVs are as dull as they currently are right now in the rework. If you're trying to get players to play this game, this is not the way to do it. You got to make it a little more exciting. You got to make it interesting. I don't know how to do that at this point. Maybe you give them torpedo bombers. I don't know. But right now, that is well, it's not the biggest problem, but that is a very, very large problem because that is a barrier to entry for everyone that you're trying to pull into aircraft carriers. So if you don't do something to make the early tiers in the new carrier rework exciting to play and worth playing, players are going to come in, they're going to give it a try, they're going to say, okay, I'm pretty decent at this. Now what? This is boring. I'd rather go watch paint dry on the walls. I'd rather go watch grass grow. And it's winter. The grass ain't growing, but I'd rather do that. So, Wargaming, you gotta do something about these initial carriers because players are not gonna want to play them as they currently are. Now moving on to the other big issue that I'm seeing. The whole carrier tier skip thing where you only have carriers every other tier. That's not a good thing either, because that creates odd matchmaking balance. And I suspect I know why Wargaming did this. And that's the other problem with the carrier rework. There are not enough differences between the tiers to warrant having aircraft carriers at every single tier. There just aren't, because what you're doing now is you're supplying an unlimited supply of aircraft that can just be brought back in, rearmed, refueled, and put back into the air. Actually, you don't even have to bring them back. You don't have to. As soon as your planes are shot down, you can just put another squadron right up into the air. So how do you differentiate a Tier 9 aircraft carrier from a Tier 10 aircraft carrier? It's hard to do when you have unlimited airplanes. Sure, you can make the airplanes slightly faster, slightly more durable, but I think the reason Wargaming did this tier skip thing is because you're not going to find enough difference between that Tier 9 and Tier 10 aircraft carrier for it to be warranted to have one in each of those tiers. Despite this, though, despite this move possibly being for the benefit of aircraft carriers and carrier gameplay, I don't agree with it because now we're lacking various aircraft carriers that should be in the game. We're not going to have them now unless you do some kind of tier split. Or not even a tier split, a line split. So I don't think this is good for the rework either. Another major issue with the carrier rework right now is there are bugs all over the place. Yes, for the most part, the UI it's decently smooth. Bombing runs are fine, torpedo runs are fine, but just other odd glitches happen. So many to the point that I don't know if you can get rid of all of them by the time 8.0 comes out. I mean, why would you force a buggy game mode onto the masses just for the sake of doing it, for the sake of getting it out there? And that leads me to my final issue with this carrier rework and what's going on right now. I don't think Wargaming has fully explored how the anti-aircraft interaction is going to work between ships and aircraft. It's very confusing for both sides. And what I mean for that is, as an aircraft carrier player with squadrons in the air, you really don't know where enemy ships' anti-aircraft aura rings start and where they end. You're just flying blind. I mean, it would make sense on at least the mini-map to put these rings around the ship so you know the extent of where their AA is. It sucks flying blind and just all of a sudden AA erupts on you. As a player in cruisers, it might be helpful in this new iteration of carrier gameplay to know how much health airplanes have left. I don't know. That should be there in general. That should be there for both sides to understand. You know, it's good information for the carrier player to have. I don't know. It just seems like there was a chance to go in here and better the gameplay and better the mechanics, and it wasn't done so that the base gameplay could get rushed in and just, I don't want to say crammed down our throat, but it just seems like Wargaming is full speed ahead with this, whether it's ready or not, just so they can get it out there because they're tired of hearing players say, when's the carrier rework? When's the carrier rework? Well, I think at this point, we're not saying that anymore. I think we're saying, we want the carrier rework, but we want it to be right. We don't want it to come out in such a way that it's going to make the gameplay worse, or it's going to make players not want to play carriers, period. Which that is exactly what we're looking at right now. We are in a situation where if this rework is released as is, I guarantee you it's not going to have the effect that Wargaming wants it to have. The players getting in are going to find that the early tier gameplay is dull, and then when they get into the higher tiers, they're not going to see a differentiation in the way that they can play. With that happening, the gameplay just becomes somewhat static and dull. And on top of that, as I mentioned, you've got all these bugs that are happening. You've got all these mechanics that could be further polished and refined, but they're not. Look, I want this carrier rework to work. I want it to happen. I've been waiting for this for a long time, like countless other players have. Yes, I know that there's players that have made their mark in the old style of carrier gameplay, and I have empathy for them. I respect what those players have done. And I feel bad for them too. I feel bad that this rework is coming when they've invested so much time in this. But I've got to put that behind us. Everyone does, because that is no longer what we're going to have. We've got something else coming, so now my focus is on making sure that what we have coming our way is right. Making sure it comes out the way we want it. Making sure that they don't release something that's going to jade even more players. Old CV players and new CV players alike. So my final plea to Wargaming, please, for the love of God, delay 8.0 or move the carrier rework further along. Give it more time to playtest. Give it more time to have those bugs searched out and eliminated, and just let the polish shine this rework a little more. You guys are almost there. You're almost there. You've got a good basis. The gameplay can be fun. We're this close to having the rework that I think Wargaming has imagined, and what we that knew this was coming were hoping it would be. We're almost there. Wargaming's on the right path, but please don't rush this. If it takes another month, if it takes another 2 months, if it takes another 3 months, that's perfectly fine. But get it right. It's more important to release it correct than to release it quick. And that's all I'm going to say. Guys, thanks for watching. I want to know your thoughts on the carrier rework. I want to know what you think. Should Wargaming delay, or should they push it out because they've said it's coming and it's been long enough? Let me know in the comments. Hope you're doing phenomenal. Zoup out.
Enemy aircraft carrier sunk.